Yeah. That's nice.
So is our meeting now in session, Mr. Chairman?
Our meeting, let's see.
This is Jay from IT. We are recording and we are broadcasting live as well. Thank you.
Well, great. So it's 6 o'clock and we have a quorum. So I'll bring the meeting to order. And Mr. Wilkinson, welcome. He's connecting right now. And so Megan, do I need to read the same information about the governor's executive order and everything else? It's on the screen, but do I need to actually read it?
Yeah, and I gave you an abridged version in your email. If that's available, you can read kind of the abridged version.
Oh. Haven't seen that.
I think it's very similar to what's on the screen. You could just repeat that
Okay.
to anyone who has issues can hear it as well.
Okay. Well, then welcome to the March 17th, 2002 meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. We're being conducted pursuant to Governor's Executive Order N2920. The meeting will be held via teleconference, and the commission members and the public will participate via teleconference. Those locations are not listed on the agenda and are not accessible to the public. Public is encouraged to listen to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting live on Woodland TV Channel 20, and also by going to the City of Woodland's website, www.cityofwoodland.org/meetings. If you wish to make a comment during the general comment or on a specific agenda item, you may submit the email to the commission at the following link, hpc@cityofwoodland.org, prior to the public comment on that item. Email comments submitted to be read into the record shall be no more than 3 minutes when read aloud. Please include the agenda item on the subject line. And you can see on the screen, or if you can't see the, I'm sorry, please click on the link to join the public comment period portion of the meeting, https://j/939917625590. The passcode is, do I read that, Megan, or not?
I think you're okay.
You're muted.
I think you're okay. It was mostly just to let them know how the meeting was being conducted by the governor's executive order.
All right, so the meeting is called to order, and I guess Megan will do roll call. Or
Commissioner Lambert.
Present.
Commissioner Lapsley.
I can't. Did you say Commissioner Lapsley?
I did.
It didn't come through clearly. Present.
Okay, apologize. Commissioner Bohan.
Here. And Megan, you are cutting out a little bit here and there.
I'll speak up. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
So we do have a quorum tonight. Let the record show.
Thank you. And as far as I know, Megan, we do not have published minutes to the commission to have looked at this point for either February of 20 or September of 20.
That is true.
Okay.
We will have those on the next meeting.
Great. That's great. Then we then go down to the staff and commissioner comments. So let me ask the commissioners if they have anything they'd like to comment on at the start of this meeting.
Not for me.
Okay.
No comments from me either. Thank you.
Okay. I guess the only comment I'll make is that I'm glad we're meeting. and we're getting some work done. It's been a long year. I'm sure everybody knows it's been a very long year. And I hopefully look forward to some additional meetings as we move forward with some of the business we have to talk to tonight. But I also look forward to being able to meet in person again. Hopefully we can get into that next fall as the pandemic is being controlled. And that's my only comment. So, and then are there any comments from staff?
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen now and just share a couple of new items in the downtown. So I just want to again voice Jim's welcome, and it has been a long time since we've met, and hopefully that this is again kind of echoing Jim's comments, that this is a fresh start for us to kind of pick up where we left off before, and you'll see on this agenda that we're kind of rediscussing or bringing back some of the items that we kind of abruptly halted with, pre-pandemic. I think all of us are very hopeful for the future here and the light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully that brings, a more open situation where we can kind of pursue some of the items that we were looking at, like I said, pre-pandemic. But here I just wanted to give Commission a little look at some of the items that have been going on in our downtown. So as you know, downtown has really had to adapt during these difficult times, and a lot of the businesses have been working really closely with the city to adapt to these changing world with the pandemic. And one of those changes has been a lot of parklets opening up on Main Street. You probably have noticed those. Specifically for all the restaurants to meet the guidelines previously under our previous level. All eating needed to happen outside of the restaurant itself. Things have opened up since then, and now we are in the red tier, and there can be limited inside use of the restaurants. But I think that we're seeing kind of a silver lining to some of the adaptations that we've had to do during the pandemic. And one of them is the parklets. And, going forward, I think council has even acknowledged, wanting to look at the use of parklets in our downtown and how that kind of brings added activity to the frontage of the street frontage. And I think it does slow traffic down some on Main Street, which, through our downtown, I think businesses would probably, say that's a good thing for them noticing the businesses, for kind of connecting with the community a little more when they're outside and partaking, food and beverages and chatting. And the parklets have allowed that to really be front and center with the lighting. And, they were kind of a quick, informal adaptation that we needed at the moment. And so, like I said, economic development will be discussing this further with council on maybe possibilities of making some of this a little more permanent in our downtown. As things open up, I think even more, and the weather is even nicer, I think more of these parklets are really going to be used as the vaccine rolls out more and more, and the tiers kind of, release some of the restrictions that we have currently. So that's something in our downtown that we can look at. The other thing, while we've been kind of half closed down at City Hall, there's been a lot of work being done. Actually, the inside and outside of City Hall got painted, and Jim, I know, gave some input on some of the signage questions that were out there. Thank you, Jim, for that. And then also our economic development has been working hard at revamping the front of City Hall grass area. Was adapted into a low water use exoscape kind of example garden. And they did a wonderful pathway, and part of it was this great mosaic that they put in the front that also represents that we're a Bee City USA community. And it's great. You should take a look if you have a moment to walk through downtown and happen by City Hall. There's a lot of really great detail to the artwork that was placed there. And it has native plants in that as well. So those are some of the things through the downtown. I will note that City Council did recently do a retreat where they kind of looked at goal setting and things that they wanted to focus in the coming months. And part of that was just reestablishing the downtown as our core civic area for entertainment, and really focusing on the qualities of Woodland that make Woodland great. I think over and over the theme of the downtown came back through their goal setting, and I can probably share some of that and what they have in mind, some of their ideas on that on our next meeting, just so you have some of that information, and maybe we can align some of our work program along with the City Council goals. So that's staff's information and news.
Thank you, Megan. I've actually wondered if the city was going to keep the parklets in place. I think that certainly as we get into later spring, and as the vaccine is more widely distributed, that people are going to want to be outside.
Yeah.
So we've been inside for so long. Anyway, I actually enjoy being outside in a number of the restaurants now that we can be outside within them. So it's kind of nice. Then let's take this then down to the public comment period, public comments. I know we have a member of the public, David Wilkinson, online, but do we have any other public members that have any comments that they want to make at this point? Not hearing any. I think we're down to presentations. And so does that take us back to Megan, I think? Yes.
So now on to some of the presentations. We had a nomination come in recently for an additional home for the Heritage Home Awards, which we will discuss kind of later in this meeting. Going forward with the Heritage Home Awards, it's looking more and more like a 2020, 2021, since we're already there, Heritage Home Awards celebration. And we will have, like I said, a little further discussion later in the meeting about the logistics of that. But we wanted to bring forward that additional home, recognize it, and discuss it as a part of our nomination, potential nomination for the Heritage Home Awards going forward. The home actually was previously nominated, and at the request of the homeowners, was taken off of the 2020 award year.
I'm sorry, Megan, I've just lost audio. I can't hear you.
Let me see if I can turn myself
Okay,
up.
that I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to get closer to the speaker and see if that helps. So as I was saying, this home is actually located at 146 3rd Street and was previously nominated as part of the 2020 Heritage Home Awards cycle. But little did we know we had COVID get in the way of that Heritage Home Award cycle. And so I believe that a commissioner and a very active member of the public, David Wilkinson, both approached the homeowners or had some conversation and encouraged them to reconsider because they had done a lovely job at restoring this home. And the owners did want to kind of relook at that nomination and put their home up for potential 2020, 2021 Heritage Home cycle for the award nominations. So with that, I know that David Wilkinson was instrumental in that move for this home to be brought back for the nomination. And I will turn that over to David to speak on behalf of this house a little bit and the beautiful restoration that they did. So thank you and welcome, David.
Thank you, Megan. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Jim, have you heard anything further from Chuck Chase, the owner? Jim?
I have not heard anything from Chuck. I've actually walked by his house probably every other day for the last several months, trying to get him when he was outside, and actually all the cars are gone all the time. So I'm thinking they're quite busy.
Well, okay. I was just curious because I had an initial conversation with Chuck, and he sounded receptive, and then future attempts to email him went unanswered. So I think he'll accept the award, but seems to be pretty difficult to get a hold of. I just sent, I was looking at Explore Historic Woodland Guidebook, and it said the original owner in 1888 was J.W. Powers. I became curious, so I just did a little quickie research on newspaperarchives.com, and it said that John W. Powers and his wife, Lucy, had the home built. And interestingly, Mr. Powers was a Civil War veteran, I believe from Massachusetts. I sent that over to Megan and Jim about an hour ago. So, and I did copy the current owner, Chuck Chase, because I did have Chuck's email address. So maybe it's of interest to him. Always interesting to find out who, who the residents were. It's architecturally, there are actually quite a few Victorian cottages of this era that have survived to the present time, thank goodness. We have the pleasure, my wife and I, of living in one of the same vintage. And ours has the same elevation as this one, although this one is a lot fancier than ours, a lot more gingerbread. Our house, I think, was about $1,800 or $2,000 to build in the 1880s. So if ours was 18,000, maybe this one was 18,500 for the extra gingerbread that they could churn out in a planing mill here in Woodland with steam-powered band saws and that sort of thing. It's remarkably intact for being, 140 years old.
Yeah.
In all the architectural detail looks original. I don't know, Chuck may have had to replace some of it, but it just looks pristine. And it's got the sitting porch on it and the big bay window. That was prominent feature of these cottages. And it'll have 12-foot ceilings, very tall, single-story house. It's all constructed of redwood, probably has Douglas fir floors. It would have a double parlor, separated by pocket doors. And you see that the side entrance is still very much intact. And the Powers family would have used that on a daily basis. And the fireplace is probably in the back parlor. And you close off all the doors and the pocket doors, and you can stay somewhat warm with the fireplace. We learned that during the last power outage. We just shut all the doors and the pocket doors and turned on our gas fireplace for 2 days, and we stayed pretty warm. And then you have the transom windows above all the doors where you can get some air circulation. So it works pretty well. I really like how they've really had a lot of fun with the paint scheme and the roof. They've made the house look more artistic. I like the red roof. It's pretty bold. And then you have a really large palette of colors on the house. I talked to Chuck about that because I'm so impressed at the amount of thought that went into the color scheme. I can't begin to describe it, but some of those kind of wood colored panels there, he said are faux colors to mimic wood, like you would with furniture or something. And these Victorian cottages, sometimes called Eastlake cottages, after the pretty famous English designer and furniture maker, John Eastlake. And of course, the Americans borrowed some of those furniture motifs for American Victorian architecture. So I just think they've done a really impassioned job of preserving the house and really showing off the craftsmanship with the colors on the house. I think it's really striking. So I think the award is well deserved.
Thank you, David. That's actually a really nice history piece to know about it. One of the things that I'll mention for the commissioners also is that when I was looking at this originally last year to write up the award for it, I had read in the walking guide that Mr. and Mrs. Silverstein bought the house in the 20s. And Mr. Silverstein was a Woodland employee and was a Woodland employee for 41 years and began as a janitor and ended up retiring as fire chief and water superintendent. So it's definitely connected to the city.
So he had a steady job, and if you had a steady job and a salary, you could afford one of these middle-class custom design Victorian cottages for like $1,800. And if you wanted to pay a few $100s more, you could make it look a little fancier.
Yes.
We had a number of talented builders living in Woodland at the time who had they called them planing mills, where they had all the equipment and steam powered equipment. And, you know, they built these houses from scratch. I mean, pretty
Yes.
talented.
They did. So thank you. Then I'll ask back to Megan then, as far as presentations go, are there other presentations?
This is the only home being nominated this evening. As mentioned, we will discuss the Heritage Home Awards in general a little later here. But if you want to act on this nomination this evening, that would probably be the next step.
Okay, and that will take us down to our business items. So we're at the point where the staff has looked at the nomination and the staff recommends that the commission approve this additional home for the 2021 Heritage Home Awards. So is there a motion to add it to the awards?
It's my pleasure to move that the home on 146 3rd Street, owned by Chuck and Noreen Chase, be awarded a Heritage Home Award for 2021.
And thank you, Commissioner Lapsley. I will second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Lamb. Appreciate that. So first, a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? I would just like to add that I literally walk by this house all the time, and it is a delight to see in the neighborhood. And I've actually watched the owners work on this house for the last decade and bring it back from sort of a plain looking house to this beautiful presentation that's on 3rd Street. And so I really enjoy looking at it as I walk by and with my dogs every day. So it has a presence. So that's my only comment. So then I'll ask Megan, will you do roll call then for the vote?
Elizabeth Lambert. All in favor, say aye or nay.
Aye.
Aye.
And Jim Bohan?
Aye.
So unanimously passes and proceeds to the Heritage Home Awards. Thank you.
Wonderful. So if I'm, I know we're going to discuss next steps for the Home Awards as one of our business items. It's item 3. Will we also discuss which commissioner will be taking up the research piece at that time?
We can discuss it now. I know that both David, you had discussed a little bit with me, and then Jim about being open to take this one forward. I know, Jim, you had originally actually brought this one up for nomination. So we could even, if you want to discuss it now, or we can discuss it offline, either way.
Why don't we go ahead and discuss it now as part of the commission? The reason I bring that up is I know that Commissioner Rosenthal had agreed to work on the 409 Casa Linda and Commissioner Lambert on the 648 College Street. And if I remember, Commissioner Lambert, you said you had completed that and turned it in too.
Correct, yes.
That's great. And Commissioner Lapsley, you were working on the 550 Oak Street and had volunteered to do 633 3rd Street.
That is correct. And Commissioner Lambert had also expressed interest in 633 3rd Street. And I think it's our intention to do that together. And I have not moved on that. But
I would agree. Yeah. And it's currently on the market, if I'm correct. So it might, I don't know if that changes
Oh,
the process.
I was going to bring this up later. I was contacted by Melissa Ham. She and her husband own 633 3rd Street. And she was most desirous to know whether or not they actually had the award, because they thought that would be her realtor thought that would be very useful in helping sell the house at the price that they're asking. And I'm not quite sure what the response was. I said we were having a meeting, that I would get back to her very soon.
I think the current description on the listing says 2020 Heritage Home Award nominee.
So that's accurate.
Boy, that's a pretty clever realtor.
Right.
Wow.
You know,
Well, that's interesting. Then I guess the awards are actually awarded to the owners of the homes, for the homes. And so the plaque actually goes to the owner of the home.
Yeah, the owner at the time. So depending on how fast they sell the home.
So on something like that, if, let's say, it sells quickly, and we're going to talk about when the awards would be, the new owners would be invited to attend and receive the oval. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I have no problem with that.
I don't have a problem with that either. Commissioner Lambert, are you good with that?
I'm fine with that.
Well, I don't recall anything in the language of the award that would prevent us from moving forward if a home's for sale.
I don't believe so.
Well, let me ask a point of clarification then. As Commissioner Lambert mentioned, it's being listed as a nominee, which is certainly correct. At the same time, it's been nominated and we have voted to approve it. We're just waiting for a write-up. So what would be the correct wording?
I think technically it is an award recipient, but because of the COVID situation, it hasn't been received yet by them. But certainly, I don't think that there would be any argument that that wasn't the case. It wasn't going to go forward that way. I mean, it's just that the pandemic has held up them just physically receiving the award. But
and my laziness in not doing the write-up, although, and certainly I'm the chief one there, it's not Commissioner Lambert. We'll get going on that. So we can tell her that she can perhaps say is it 2020 then award winner?
the 2020 award cycle, so 2020 award historic preservation.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Recipient.
So then that leaves then two other homes, one at 186 Walnut, which is in the 2020 awards nomination cycle that was approved for an award. And now the 146 3rd Street in the 21 award cycle.
And on the Oak Street, I've done the research. I just haven't written it up. It was built before 1870, before the city was. It was built in 1870, actually. It's just been dramatically remodeled.
Okay. So then, at this point, I actually nominated 146 3rd, so I'm happy to move forward with that one myself. And I also nominated 186 Walnut. So I could actually move forward with both of them since Commissioner Lapsley, you're doing two, and Commissioner Lambert, you've already submitted one, and you're going to help on the second one.
Yeah, I'm doing 1.5. Commissioner Lambert is doing 1.5.
I certainly don't have any problem working on the ones I nominated. So I really, the one at 186 Walnut is just a wonderful Spanish revival. So and so it's I like it because it's not in the classic core area. It's kind of off the beat path a bit. Yeah, so
it's a block from me, and I love that house.
Yeah. So I think that's a decision on the direction we're going to go on who's doing the research on them.
Okay, I will note that on our records.
Okay. And then when we get to the topic of what's next in the awards, we can talk about, we have to reach out to Commissioner Rosenthal to find out what the status of the Casa Linda house is. Okay. Great. So then that will take us then to the draft program work, the draft work program.
Yep.
And I'll give it back to Megan then on that to start it.
Did I
Get to the right point here.
Hi, David.
Thank you, David. So we actually spoke about the work program previously, but I just wanted to bring this back up since we kind of abruptly halted everything due to COVID and the city hall partially shutting down. So to just kind of refresh your memory, I'm going to just quickly go through kind of the previous discussion that we had and kind of start from there. So these are just kind of some of the main objectives of the Historic Preservation Commission, and to educate and to put focus on the historic nature of Woodland, and really highlight the strengths of the historic preservation and historic fabric of Woodland. And our general plan also kind of echoes those same types of goals for the city to preserve and maintain and to celebrate the historic nature of especially the core of the city of Woodland. And as I mentioned, City Council kind of reestablished that vision and goals in their retreat just recently, that the downtown is the core of the city and the civic center of entertainment, and that the historic nature of our downtown adds to that fabric and to that civic connection. So just considering future work items, that obviously there are some things that limit us within the city, obviously our budget, and that anything money-wise comes out of our general fund, and that some things would be at a higher level if they do take money, would take council approval, and also just staff time. But I would like to say that planning has started having interns again, and I can utilize some of our interns that we are starting to have come back into the department on different work program goals. We could have somebody work specifically on something for HCP. We stopped having interns for almost over a year now. So these are some of the things that are anticipated to potentially come down the pike. I would like to note that the zoning ordinance did take a backseat to our housing element because the state of California has a deadline for our housing element. So our long-range planning has really been focused on getting that document done for the state of California, and then coming back to the zoning ordinance. There is still a plan to have both Planning Commission and Historic Preservation Commission possibly meet together and review part of this document and provide comments. I'll let you know when that is. It is a ways down the way, but that is coming down the pike. And then also urban forest plan. There was an initial document, and I know that there is further discussion on revamping our tree ordinance, and members of council have voiced that, and we have a portion in that we are directly related to. So that will probably, a portion of that at least will come before this body to review and look at as well. But a lot of things have been put on hold just because of staff limited time that was during the pandemic. But I think that this is one that council has said that needs to be a priority coming up. So, and then of course the Heritage Home Awards, we already discussed that the trajectory of our timeline was kind of put on hold. So we'll be discussing that as our next item on potential timelines and getting back on track. And then also several development projects. You know, in terms of the development projects, they come before us with different ideas, and then some of them don't come to fruition, and others maybe got shelved for a little while, but a lot of things are coming back into planning. So there are a couple of ones that, you know, I don't want to point them out directly right now in case they go away, but I do still have some things that may come before this body. And so we just had previously talked about different ideas for work programs. We had looked at some of the previous work programs. A lot of times they, items that they have on their work programs go over multiple years. As you know, sometimes they can't get done in 1, even 2 or 3 cycles, or have, because of limited time or money issues. I would like to say that Jim Bohan has actually worked with economic development on historic signage for, I believe, the train station. I know you had been talking to somebody about that, so I just wanted to call that out, that he's been really active in trying to get that going. I know that they had requested some recognition on the historic train station, so I know that is maybe you can give an update on where that's at too. And then there was some discussion, and this is a large work item, but certified local government that gives some added bonuses to people looking for funding, I believe, for historic preservation, and opens up some other funding options for the city. And so then, actually this is, I'll leave it at this one here. So I just wanted to open it up to the commissioners to get some ideas from you. I know that we had some discussion, probably, you know, pre-pandemic actually, on the work programs and some ideas that a number of you had. I think some of them that came up were additional mappings to be put on our website. I know that we have some that I believe, Mr. Lapsley, that you had some additional information that you thought might be useful to have archived on our website for the city, and that there were some other work items that maybe interns could add some hours onto that would help us get some work items done for, well, now it would be the 2021 work program cycle. So I just want to open it up to commissioners to have this discussion.
Thank you, Megan. Go ahead, Commissioner Lapsley.
Just wanted to update, there's the web page's historic map archive. As I had mentioned earlier, when Woodland became a city in 1871, most of the parcels were rather large, 5, 10, 15 acre, sometimes 20 acre parcels, where the owner then later decided to subdivide and to create a plat map giving land for streets to the city and dividing it up with lots. And these were called additions to the city of Woodland. I've been talking with Heather Langtot of the Yolo County Archives. They have a new flatbed scanner, and she's going to go back and redo a lot of the work that I had already done in order to make better copies, which I think is just great. I've sent her a list of editions and page books, or basically minutes archives and so forth, so that she can get those. There's still a lot of work to be done. I have a collection of many of them, but some of them from the city aren't in very good shape. But this would be a start, I'm also, I guess, an ad hoc member of the 150th anniversary committee that the city has put together. And there is going to be some money available for various topics, and they want to be putting things on the web because of COVID, at least for the first 6 months, because they want people to have physical gatherings. So I think that that is a possibility to move forward that I'd like to put some time in with. I don't know how this would tie in with your interns, because again, some of this is physical labor, Megan, at the archives. Although some of it is also within the city, and that could perhaps be done as well.
Great. And I can network on our side with the city manager and his staff, who I know have been instrumental in economic development with your group for the 150th year anniversary, and offer planning services along with our interns.
Yeah. I think that in many ways, that'd be great, Megan. I think that much of the help that would be needed is not so much getting the images, but rather organizing them and onto a website.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I really like the idea of building up the web content that's available about the historic homes and buildings in Woodland. I think it's important to consider which projects have the most potential for fostering engagement and understanding among the general public. And we have wonderful publications out there, but many of them are in a print form or not readily available to everyone. And so people end up being surprised when they find out that these wonderful resources are available. So
also even just listing that they are available and where to find them.
yes,
I found that was difficult to find or non-existent on our website. So even just having one place that kind of gives kind of an overview and also says other resources, and maybe the Yale Archives is listed on there as well as other resources and where to find things.
As an anecdote, I recently started a Facebook group for owners of Matroni homes. And there was just such an appetite for information about their own homes. They didn't know what year it was built. They didn't know its history. So pointing them in the right direction has been wonderful. And I think a granddaughter and a great-granddaughter of Joseph Matroni ended up joining and sharing these beautiful original photographs of when each of the homes were built. Just priceless with their original prices. So I think there is an appetite for it, but we just have to make it more readily available to the community.
Are those on your Facebook page that they would maybe consider sharing them with the next a future meeting group?
Certainly, yes. I can ask them if they would be interested in joining us one day and sharing, because they're absolutely amazing, and the homeowners have all been delighted to see them.
There are two other projects that might be of interest as well. I've talked with David Wilkinson, who coordinates all of the stroll docents for the Stroll Through History. And we've talked tentatively, but haven't moved forward on getting a couple of the docents to essentially walk the tour that they give, and it changes every year a little bit, but walk their tour and record, with the idea that these could be downloadable. Ideally, you'd buy the book, but you could, somebody with earphones and an iPhone or whatever, could walk and essentially be given that tour any time of year. And I think that that's a project that needs to be done, and that is quite potentially can be done. I think part of the issue may be a fear of technology, and so help on that end would be very, very useful, I think.
That actually sounds like a really neat idea. It also would reach a younger community that tend to utilize technology a lot more than some of us.
And another project that Heather Langtot and I have on the back burner is how to research your home and how to use the archives and where you would start, what maps to look at, that sort of thing. That's in the future for me, but I'll be working with Heather on that.
Great.
So
Wonderful.
Commissioner Lapsley, that actually sounds like something that could fit very nicely underneath the preservation website as well.
Oh, yes.
And so could the walking tours, and so could all of the information, Commissioner Lambert, that you're talking about. And the reason I bring that up is I was looking at the priorities of some things, and I noticed that it's a historic preservation website update in the interactive sort of walking tour app concept is a priority 2. And it has some estimate of timeframes on it. While the walking tour book project has a priority 1. So not wanting to interfere with the stroll, I was looking at it saying, are those priorities still in line with what the commission would like, or do we really want to push the priority of the website up?
Well, speaking for myself, and we don't know how long COVID would last. We didn't think it was going to last a year, and we're all kind of surprised at that. I think that getting things on the web is a way both to save them and to make them much more useful and accessible to a wide variety of people. My side of the things is more content. And when I say my side, I mean also the people, like David Wilkinson and others with whom I work. The getting them actually up on the website is more of a technological issue, where I and others could certainly use help. And if there was somebody who had kind of an overarching view of how to do this and to do this easily, especially if they had some GIS background, I think would be really important and really excellent. And I think we'd have other people kind of coming out of the woodwork to help once they knew that they could do things like that. Kind of the example that Commissioner Lambert mentions with the Matroni homes. I think there's a lot of expertise out there, or people who have bits of information that would be great to have be shared.
Unfortunately, the city side, I mean, right now, during the pandemic, we were a little limited, but as I said, we are getting our interns back, so there's the potential for more manpower on my side, and we have GIS capability and a web page platform that we can utilize, obviously. So.
I would also, excuse me, I would also mention that getting things on the web does seem to be a priority for Ken Hyatt when he's chairing the meetings, which we've now just had our third on Wednesdays, about the 150th stroll celebration. There will be a 150th website. It's going to be tied through the city website, but things could be put on there temporarily and then transfer over, or have the 150th just become part of the city website. So I think the time is opportune.
I agree. What I was doing was I was looking at the work areas and the priorities on some of them. I know that the city still has a considerable number of walking tour books.
This in boxes.
So yeah, I was basically looking at it and saying, I actually think we should make the website, the interactive project, priority 1, and the walking tour book maybe priority 2, just because we already have a cache of books, and while I know they're a little bit dated, they're still very nice, and we have to sell them. So
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of thoughts there. I'm sorry, I have to keep jumping in, but I use the walking tour books a lot, and I tell people about where to get them down at in the planning department. And when I was there 2 years ago, I was noticing some of the things that might be updated, and I mentioned them to one of the staff there. And she opened up and showed me all these boxes. She said, "We have more downstairs," because they paid for. They're beautiful books. They paid for a really big color run in order to get the unit price down, and not looking at the value of interest on them because they were printed quite a while back. I don't think that there's a particular need to update them. I think there's a need to have them be used.
Right. So I guess that's my thought on the part of the work plan, Megan, was that I think that you've mentioned the comprehensive zoning update part, and so I had a question about when we might look at that, but you said it's coming in the future still, so it's still out there and it's still a work priority.
Yeah.
I was also looking at the partnership with the Stroll Through History, and Commissioner Lapsey is on the Stroll Through History, we can say. He's the chair. So I was thinking that instead of moving forward with something like an ad hoc subcommittee, we could ask Commissioner Lapsley to give us an update now and then at our HPC meetings. And that actually takes care of that work effort.
We have a direct connection.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. If that's what you meant by coordination, just some information coming in, that would be fine. I've told the board that this will be my 5th and final year on the board. There are other things I want to do on Woodland history. One of the things I would really like to do would be to get some younger people interested in the Stroll Through History. I'm 71 and I'm one of the younger members. Commissioner Lambert might find that of interest.
We do, actually. We should talk. We should talk about that.
I'm actually right with you, Mr. Lapsley. You're ahead of me by about 1.5 years. So, but anyway, so the other thing I was looking at was where is it? I had read the information you provided on the draft work program, and that the council was interested in the tree ordinance being updated. And so is the tree ordinance going to be incorporated into the heritage and landmark trees work effort that's actually on our work plan?
Yeah, so those would be the specific portions that we would look at in the update that was, it's even just in the discussion phase. So it is down the road, but I know that is one item that was of interest to a couple of members specifically of the council to relook at that tree ordinance. And those would be the sections that would come before us. And we may look at it in the entirety, but those are specific to the HPC.
So that answers my question about where that might fit in our work effort.
Yeah.
So and I guess that was the only other question I had. So on our work efforts and for the plan. So and then are we going to? We have potential project discussions here for like in the information you provided us as well. And so there is a task to commemorate the 150th anniversary that you were doing some confirmation on, Megan. Is that still sort of in process?
I think it is still in process. I know as Mr. Lapsley has notated that quite a bit has been going on with this special committee So I was going to engage with the city manager's office and see if there's specific tasks that that our group could assist with. But I think with the information that the commission has provided, I'm going to update our work program to reflect some of the priorities that were discussed tonight. And then also do a little research on some other websites in communities that are rich in history, say Berkeley and Pasadena. They may be something we aspire to, but they might have some ideas that I can bring back to HPC once I have a refined work program that reflects some of the discussion tonight, and maybe bring some items from some research that I do that maybe could inspire us on specific things that we want to add to our website in terms of an overall structure. If we start filling out a structure, we can have we can plug in some of the things that were mentioned tonight as possible information items on the start of our web page.
That sounds like, actually, from my perspective, it sounds like a very good direction. So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the direction and thoughts that you had on the work program.
Yeah, one more item I'll pick up real quick here for the commission is you'd asked about the historic street signs. I had discussions with Eric Baumgartner about historic signs, and they're talking to Sean Denny, who actually created the signs, about adding the railroad station, which is up and coming, to that to the signage, so that when you're entering Woodland, you would see signage that essentially directs you to the historic railroad site as well, the railroad station. And there's a specific language that's been asked to be put on it, and they're looking at that right now to see if that can be accommodated. The railroad depot is actually going to be opened as soon as they're allowed to be open under the COVID restrictions. They finished their bathroom modifications, and so they now have everything they have to be open to the public. And so they're planning to, as the pandemic gets under control, they're planning as soon as they can as a public space to be opened. So I'm very happy to see that. So.
Great. Thank you.
And I think at that point, then, are there any other questions from the commissioners or other comments on the work plan, the work program? Nope, not hearing any. I think we're then down to our actions on the historic preservation awards, the heritage awards, pardon me, and the next steps on it.
So next steps for Heritage Home Award, as kind of the theme of this meeting, we got kind of interrupted by the pandemic, and we had great aspirations to do the award ceremony this spring, but the pandemic kept going.
Yes.
And you know, other things that took everyone away from doing those types of things, as distance learning with children and juggling, you know, different work situations. So I wanted to bring before the commission an idea to possibly hold the Heritage Home Awards, the 2020, 2021 nominees in the fall. That being said, the reason for that, we are getting tight on the timeline for this spring. I did call the group that does the plaques just to make sure that they were still running. And and to also get kind of a, what their timeline looking like in terms of turnaround on the plaques. There is a potential that maybe we could still make the spring timeline, but it would be extremely tight. The other advantage of the fall is that, as we see the trajectory of the pandemic possibly slowing down and normal life hopefully opening back up as more and more people get vaccinated, the fall is looking more and more. Schools are talking about opening normal in somewhat normal fashion in the fall. A lot of other things are anticipating that it's going to be a little more normal in the fall. And that being said, there might be the opportunity to hold an award ceremony in the council chambers with limited numbers, or even I posed the idea of having, a ceremony if we can't have it indoors, maybe in the early fall when the weather's still nice and warm. Actually, in our climate, having it in the garden area. The only issue with that is taping the award ceremony and having it available. So I'd have to work with IT or in some ways, or it might not be fully available to the public, which could cause problems. So I'd have to look into that. But those things will be dependent on Yolo County's, what they have for indoor gatherings, what regulations they have on indoor gatherings in the fall. I think it's a much more likely scenario that we could have an indoor gathering with a limited number of people at City Hall in the fall. In the spring, if we did the ceremony, it probably could only be in the garden area, and I would have to work out the logistics of that in some way. I have contacted HR and just kind of initially kind of put that idea out to them. Like I said, I wanted to bring that before this body and kind of have that discussion. We do have an additional nominee as of tonight, so there are some logistics there with getting everything up to speed again and getting the award ceremony on the timeline that it needs to have. So with that, I kind of will open it back up for discussion with send it back to the chair.
So Commissioner Lapsley, you had your hand up first.
Okay. In terms of dates, the only reason I know this is because I'm on this ad hoc committee. The will of the group celebrating the 150th is that the city really have a separate day. They were originally talking about doing it coinciding with the stroll, which is October 2nd, Saturday, October 2nd. But they decided they really wanted to have something separate. So they're now very seriously talking about a big outdoor celebration on Saturday, October 16th. And Megan, the reason you haven't heard about that is because Ken hasn't gotten to you yet. But they might be very excited about having the homeowners and the celebration be part of the 150th. It's just to be an add-on, and I think that's something that you should explore.
Okay.
And Commissioner Lambert, you also had your hand up.
Sure. So I think the October celebration sounds wonderful. I did want to ask, when is the last time we held a ceremony? Was it 2018, 2019?
I believe so, because there were actually two homes were carried forward from that transition period. Yeah, so we have quite a bit to make up for in terms of our Heritage Home Awards. We're going to have a giant blowout when we finally have a celebration here.
And if for some reason October still and then fall still isn't an option, is there any possibility or interest in having a Zoom-based ceremony? I know it does not have the same, I know it's sad, but I just would hate to delay indefinitely if that's what we're.
I think realistically, if we can't have it as part of this larger thing that they're looking at on October 16th, we could do a smaller, I mean, even at this point in time, they're allowing very small
That's true.
in outside situations. So I think by the fall, there may be some opportunity that a small civic engagement could happen outside at least. I mean, obviously we'll have to confirm that at that point, but it seems like we're on that trajectory. So at the very least, I think we could have, but you know, I never want to say never in the year that we've just gone through.
Well, I will remain optimistic.
Yeah, exactly. We're all remaining very optimistic in what we're seeing.
Yeah. So I agree with Commissioner Lambert that we need to do something because 2018, I believe, was the last year. It might have even been 17, but I believe it was 18. And so we now have several years worth of awards that are banking up. Mm-hmm. And I actually think that I really like the idea of October 16th as part of the 150th. I mean, because it in fact ties right together. This is a heritage home. We're celebrating heritage here, 150 years as a city. And if that does not work, perhaps we can, like you said, do a small thing, but we could do it on the stroll day the week before. Because 2 weeks before. Because then that would tie it to at least something that has to do with history and heritage. I think I will summarize this by saying I think that the three commissioners don't believe we should try to do it in the spring because I don't think it's achievable, and it doesn't sound like anybody else does either. And so we think that the fall is a good strategy, and focus on the 16th of October, and if not, then perhaps stroll day. Do I need to make that official?
I think that's a good direction for staff to take. And so I just wanted to kind of summarize what I've heard in our discussions this evening, that we're going to try to coincide the Heritage Home Awards with the October 16th celebration that the city is kind of projecting that will happen for the 150th. And that also we're going to start kind of outlining a skeleton for our online presence and filling that in. And maybe our priority is something for the 150th, even just some kind of general information that we can start filling in that can add to the celebratory things that are going on in the 150th.
I think that worked. I think one of the homes actually fits right in there, doesn't it, Jim?
Well, it does. But one of the things that I think the city has, or the ad hoc group has wisely thought about is it's not just things that are 150 years old. It's about the past and the future of the city of Woodland and everything in between. And I think so all the homes fit very nicely.
So our next meeting, I think that I'll bring forward, as I mentioned, the revised work program and some ideas for the skeleton for the our online presence, and we can talk more about that. And then the next steps would be kind of looking at future research and the trajectory. I'll bring our timeline, our tentative timeline for the fall Heritage Home Award ceremony.
Thank you. That sounds good.
Great.
So then that takes us to the end of our published agenda. And so let me ask the commissioners if there's anything else they'd like to bring up.
Yes, I've just discovered the raise hand, lower hand. So nice. I have two points of information more for the commissioners as individuals. One is that back in 2017, 2018, David Wilkinson and I gave 2 lectures back to back, and I spoke about the build out and the creation of what I would call neighborhoods or the plat addition maps. I've been talking with Heather Langtodd, And I'm probably going to be giving that for the Friends of the Archives, Zooming, where you still have to set a date. It's probably going to be Monday evening. I'm not sure, sometime on Monday on April 19th. And if either of you or anyone who's interested in attending that Zoom lecture, if you're really bored, then you can certainly send me an email and I'll get you the link once that's established. But I think you might find it of interest. I hope so. The second is, okay, the second aspect is that just a brief report on the stroll through history. We have 5 homes. I'm really very pleased. 2 of the homes are before Woodland became a city. And one, which will probably be the poster home, is built in 1873, and it's the lovely Gothic on the corner of 2nd and Cross on the southwest corner. It's in Depew's history. And then we have, let's see, the youngest is a 1906 home on 1st Street. And then we also have a home built in the 1880s on 3rd Street, the corner of 3rd and Clover, where there was a fire on the upstairs. And so they didn't rebuild it as a classic Victorian going up the 2nd story. They came in with the slope more like a Craftsman. So it's a weird amalgam. But the downstairs, which people will be touring, is it's still Victorian, although they've done some pretty interesting remodels. The front parlor is now I guess it'd be like in Taos, New Mexico. But you can imagine that. It's done very nicely. At any rate, it's really going to be a really great group of 5 homes, and I'm just very pleased.
That sounds actually great. So I really can't wait to go through the stroll again. So it's been
I missed it last year.
Yeah, well, we all did. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you, Commissioner Lapsley. I appreciate it. Anything else from Commissioner Lambert?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay. So I think we're at the end of our agenda, and so I think we're adjourned.
Thank you.
That's right. We don't have to move for adjournment, do we? No.
We don't. I actually read that in Robert's rules. You don't act.
Commissioner Lambert sent that to us.
Yes, she did. The modified rules, but
The cheat sheet?
really great. The cheat sheet. Yeah, when you're at the end of your agenda, you don't have to move to adjourn.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Good
Good to
Yes,
see
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening now.
You too.